everyone. My name's Mark, aka Marco.
And I'm Bethel, aka Bella, and together we are MARCOBELLA. So, today's video is about how we met.
Or more like how she stalked me.
I didn't stalk him, but it's a funny story. Okay, so we've known each other all our lives. Well, actually, he's older than me, so he's known me all his life. I've only known of him since I was about 10 years old, because that's when I kind of remember him being there. We went to the same church. We're from Zimbabwe originally, but we live in the UK right now. So we went to the same church, and his mom was my Sunday school teacher. I know, right? I don't know.
I wasn't really paying attention, clearly.
To Sunday school.
To Sunday school, exactly.
I was paying attention to the Sunday school teacher's son. No, I don't remember you from Sunday school, actually. I just remember him from like hanging out with his friends, and I just used to like see him and be like, oh, he's cute.
Who's that?
I don't even know why I liked him, to be honest with you, but he was just really friendly and warm, and I just wanted to talk to him all the time. I had
a halo all around me.
So I would just go up to him and talk to him, and I was like 10, and he was like 15 at the time, and he was like, what does this little kid want? Like, but he was always really polite, and he wasn't rude or anything like that. So yeah, used to talk to him all the time. I don't know if any of you have ever watched Beast Wars, but anyway, this is what Waspinator looks like. So for some reason, he used to call me Waspinator. I don't know why.
We used to enjoy the show, so we used to really like Beast Wars at the time. Well, I enjoyed it, and so that, you know, Waspinator's a really cool character.
Yeah.
And because she had that kind of
oh my goodness! Yes, me thinking that you called me
Waspinator
Waspinator because I don't know, because I was cool or something. Anyway.
No, she was cool, but obviously Waspinator still makes sense, you know.
So we always used to talk about Beast Wars and like just random stuff. Like, obviously I was younger, so he would talk about cartoons. And I remember one day, really, really interestingly, as you do, girls playing on the swings, my friend, she's older than me, right? And she was like, oh, which one of the Mazuva brothers would you marry? Because he has a brother who's younger than him. And I was like, I think I would marry Mark. And then she was like, no, you marry his brother, Tino, because he's younger. I'm older than you, so I'll marry Mark. And I was like, oh, hell no. I was like, Mark is mine. Yeah. And I was 10, and I didn't know what I was saying. But
and by the way, I wasn't there, so...
No, he wasn't there.
I had no clue.
I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't even know that we were going to end up married. I just said it. Call it destiny.
Well, at least you heard about marriage, and you kind of wanted to go in that direction. So
I didn't want to go in any direction. I was just saying that out of you and your brother, I would rather marry you.
But I guess I was actually trying to compliment her to say she was thinking about commitment, a long-term commitment to this.
Yeah, like which personality do I think would be easy to commit to, or would be a person who would commit to me? Yeah. And at the tender age of 10, yeah, I picked him.
Apparently, I had all the qualities she needed.
All the qualities that I needed.
Of all the 4 billion men or whatever it is in the world.
Yeah.
2 point something billion.
And, but like it didn't, I mean, from there we were just kids, and I mean, we used to talk and that kind of stuff. And then his parents decided that they were going to move to England, and that was like the end of my life. Because in Zimbabwe at that time, I'd never been on a plane. Like going on a plane was like a thing. It was like, okay, I'm never going to see this person again. He's going to England. I didn't know anything about England at that time. All I just knew is that I'm not going to see him again. And I was really, really sad. And I remember the day that he was going to England, we all went to the airport, like all of the young people from church. And I was standing behind a pillar, like literally.
At what, 10?
Yeah, I was like 10. I was like 10, 11. And like, I was literally crying because he was leaving, and I didn't get to hug him goodbye, and I didn't get to say goodbye. And I remember being so, so sad. I feel like right now. But I was like, I'm never going to see him again.
And that's why she turned stalker.
No! Oh, anyway. So I don't think I was ever going to see him again. But lo and behold, like not long after that, my parents decided that they wanted to move to England because there was a lot of stuff happening in Zimbabwe at the time. So this is like 2001. And my parents were like, yeah, we're going to go to England. I wasn't like putting two and two together because remember, I was still a kid at this time. I think I was like 11 going on 12. So I wasn't thinking, ooh, I'm going to England, I'm going to see Mark. No, I wasn't thinking that.
What were you thinking?
I was just like, oh, we're going to England, it's going to be a new life, and that's going to be interesting.
Did you ask your folks whether you were going to go to the same place as Mark, or...?
No. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't even think about you at that point. At that point, you were gone in my life.
Apparently, this is what she's not saying. At the time, she thought the UK was just as big as America, so
yeah, I thought
we
the
were
UK
never
was
going to meet.
America. I actually used to think the UK was America, but that's because in Zimbabwe we had a lot of American TV. And so I used to think when we get to the UK, we're going to have like a lot of locker rooms and, you know, like when you watch High School and how that kind of thing. But
they haven't got any geography classes
like
over there, so they wouldn't have known the map of like the world and the difference between the US and the UK.
Thanks, Mark.
But this is her story. This is what's true to her. So there we go.
Anyway, I didn't know that I was going to bump into Mark when I came to the UK. So we came and we started going to this church in Bedford. And lo and behold, I didn't realize that our parents were like best friends. That was unbeknown to me because I'm a kid. I don't know what's going on in the adult world. So our parents were like really good friends. And then we went to this church, which Mark's dad had actually said you should go to this church. I didn't know that. So one day I sat in church and I just look up and who do I see walking in?
In fact, didn't I just fly in? Like, I sort of glided in with wings.
I was literally like, honestly, my heart started beating. I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I didn't know what to do with myself, to be honest with you. I was just like, then yeah, I was super happy. Straight after church, I think I was like 12 or 13 at this point. I went up to him, Mark, what's your number? Literally, I was like, Mark, what's your number? That's a bit forward. But I guess I didn't want to lose you again.
Forward is an understatement. It was just, yeah.
Yeah, but
right up in your grill, as the Americans would say. like right there.
I was like, at least if I have his number, even if he goes to another country, I'll be able to contact him. So
maybe to the US, the real US,
the real one. So again, we started chatting. I would call him randomly. I don't even know why. What would I be talking to you about? He was 17 at this time. How was school? School was great. What did you learn? I don't know, some like random topics.
I think if anything, you know, our gracious King, you know, God gave me lots of patience. So I just entertained her, I just amused her, you know.
Yeah. And then like, I don't know, there's so many stories we could tell, but our parents kind of like, obviously because they were friends, they would kind of, in an unknown way to them, I don't think they knew they were doing it.
I think my dad knew what he was doing.
Your dad probably had like
he did.
Foresight.
Yeah, he did.
But like,
my dad definitely set us up. He just wanted us to get married, so.
So he would always bring him to my house, just like randomly. And like,
yeah, my dad would be like, do you want to go to do you want to go to Bethel's house? And then after that, we'll go to the shops.
It was just random. But yeah, so we had lots of random encounters and like just chill outs and hangouts, youth hangouts and stuff like that. We kept talking and obviously our friendship just developed and we became really, really close friends. Best friends, I would say. And then I think, yeah, even though like I had said what I'd said when I was 10, we all went on our different journeys in life. So he went to uni before me, obviously, because he's older than me. So he went to uni, he was doing his thing, he was enjoying his life. We still used to talk and like every now and then and stuff like that. And I remember praying for him when he was there. I remember he'd call me at like 1 a.m. in the morning and my mum would freak out because he would be calling my mum Ellen, that's her first name. And in our culture, that is very rude. You do not call an adult by their first name. So he would be like, oh, hi, Ellen, at 1 o'clock in the morning. Can I speak to Bethel? And Bethel is like 15 at this time.
Yeah, 15, yeah.
15, 16. And it's like, so she'd be like, it's your friend. Mark, tell him to stop calling me Ellen. And I'm like, why don't you tell him to stop calling you Ellen? Anyway.
And the joke is she never did. She never told him at all.
She didn't. I don't know why. She never told him off. I didn't get it. I used to be so mad because I'd have to tell him off. Like, stop calling my mom Ellen. It's so annoying. But yeah, in the UK though, you can call like adults by their first names. It's kind of like a UK culture thing, but he's from Zimbabwe, so he wasn't allowed to do that. Anyway, so
apparently.
then when I was like 17, so I had a couple of crushes / boyfriends who just, yeah, let's just say they didn't fit
And
the
by the
bill.
way, every time Bethel got a new boyfriend, she would always ring to say, oh, so I've got this new person and this is what they can do. You know, they're really good at playing the guitar. You know, they write songs and all sorts of stuff, and they dress just like you.
No, I didn't say they dress just like
smile.
you. Their names are also Marco.
Yeah, they're called Marcus for some reason. Okay.
No, but anyway, so yeah, I wasn't actually like a Christian at this point. Although we used to go to church, I hadn't actually had my salvation journey at all, and we will talk about that in another video. We'll have videos about where we talk about how we came to Christ and things like that. But I wasn't, so I was dating some random people who just didn't fit the bill. And one day...
Short-changed, actually.
Really short-changed. But one day, I was talking to my friends just in the mall randomly, like, oh, do you know what? I've had so many guys who are just like nothing, you know, nothing to write home about. I want a guy who's like this and like that and like this and like this and like this. Like just listed all these things. And then when I finished listing things, it's like I had this epiphany moment, kind of like when I was 10 years old on the swing. I had this epiphany moment and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Mark. I was like,
That's the person I am talking about.
like, it's Mark! Oh my gosh, it's Mark! And so, me in my craziness, because I don't waste time, I phoned Mark, like, straight away. I didn't even, like, think about it. I phoned him and I was like, I'm coming to your house. So he lived in another town, so I had to get a train to get there. But I was like, I'm going now. I'm not wasting time. So he was like,
Yeah, and I was about to go out with the boys, so we were going to go watch football at the time. Not that I'm into football, but I was just going to go watch football with the boys. And then Bethel rings and she's like, so I'm coming over to your house. I was like, okay.
I've got something really important to tell you.
So yeah, I've got something really important to tell you. Okay, great. Guess I'll wait. And I think for me, the thing is obviously because I'd been talking to Beth for the past like 3 years, and so this was nothing new. This is what she'd always do. Yeah, longer than that. And this is, you know, this was normal. She'd always ring and be like, oh my goodness, I got something to tell you, you know, so.
So yeah, I got the train, went to his house, right? And then literally like sat on his bed. He was like sat on the desk and he was like facing me. He's like, okay, what is it? And I was like, okay, right. I think I love you.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. Bearing in mind, I'm 17 at this time and he's 22. But he has like a totally different testimony to me. And he didn't really date anyone. He wasn't like that. He just kind of like wanted to like save himself for the one, which is so sweet. Thank you. But yeah, so he was just like, okay, you crazy lady. That's probably what he was thinking in his head.
No, not really. I think at the time when you told me that, I was just thinking, okay, Bethel, like, this is not a secret.
Tell me something new.
But yeah, bearing in mind, she's been stalking me, like literally, she would ring me every day, find out where I was, what I was doing, how I'm getting on, do I need any help? Yeah, so, you know, It was nothing out of the ordinary.
So I was like, yeah, I think I love you. And he was like, okay, so what does that mean? And I was like, I don't know, like maybe we can go out. He was like, okay. So just to let you know, like in our religion or Christianity, you don't kiss or touch or do anything before marriage. Touch. Yeah, there's no like nothing before marriage. So if anyone's thinking she was 17, you were 22, dude, that's a bit weird. No, there was not like none of that. So it was just kind of like a friendship, essentially, but an exclusive friendship. So he was like, okay, so what does that mean? And I was like, well, it just means like you be my boyfriend and I'll be your girlfriend. And he's like, okay. And that was it. And literally like, that was it. He was like, okay. But it didn't actually work out like that. As I said, we've got different faith journeys. And at that time, I was just a bit of a crazy nut teenager. I will talk about that in some other videos.
I think a bit of a crazy, again, is an understatement because I think when you're exploring everything that life has to offer.
I'll say the prodigal daughter, yeah, Let's just put it that way. I was having a bit of a prodigal daughter experience at that time. And so I think he was a bit overwhelmed with it all. And
I wasn't overwhelmed. I mean, bearing in mind, I'm much older than Bethel. And so, if anything, I felt like the responsible older brother, even though we had this, like incredible
relationship. Don't say brother, that sounds weird.
No, get me right, like protective in that way.
Yeah, he was protective, very protective.
Which is why...
Guardian, maybe guardian.
Yeah, okay. Which is why I never took advantage of her. Because obviously I was thinking...
Never.
She's trusted me so much, and not only that, she is a lot younger than me, and so, I have to be responsible enough. Because my dad had always said to me, when I was younger, just generally speaking, responsibility is one of those things that you have to master. And so for me, in every area of my life, I'd always try to kind of get to that place.
Yeah, and trust me, he was so respectable. Like even my mum would if he was in town and he was somewhere else at 10 o'clock at night, my mum would drive me to take me to him. I guess she just trusted him and she knew that he would never take advantage of me, and he never did. So where were we in the story? Anyway, so you were like, it's okay, it's all good, we need to take a break. That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
And then you were like, I think you're a bit crazy for me, Bethel. I think right now is probably not a good time, and maybe we need to just take a break and you just live your best life, which I did. I was sad, but I think at the time I was not ready for this. I wasn't ready for the seriousness of this. So just went on more growth and that kind of stuff. Fast forward some time, he went to London. He just was living his best life, growing his career. And then I went to uni. I had was still in my wilderness journey. I then sent him some pictures of me modeling, right, which I was super, super proud of and I loved. And then he sent me this email back, which was so mean, so mean. Because basically the clothes I was wearing and the things I was doing in the pictures, just the poses and stuff like that, it wasn't really honoring God, and it wasn't really what we believe in and that kind of stuff. So
I don't think it was that. I think it's more of, when you see something powerful or more, shall I say, something worth kind of appreciating in someone, or at least reminding someone of who they are, the value that they have, and maybe even just how important they are to you. So for me, it was more of...
He didn't say that.
I didn't say it like that, of course.
If he said that in the email, I might have responded very differently, but his email...
I think it was a genuine concern, because the most important thing is Bethel used to talk to me all the time, and so for me, I knew of the kind of dangerous situations and circumstances she put herself in sometimes. And so again, that protective thing, I'd always tell her the truth. So even if she emailed me and said, hey, look, this is what I'm doing, it's amazing, da-da-da, just be like, actually, no, that's not you. So just leave that, walk away. And, to her, that was devastating. It's like, why don't you have my back? Why don't you just support me?
In this email, he was like, it looks like Santa Claus picked you up and dropped you in a dark alley. The way this photographer has portrayed you is not anything like your name, because my name is Bethel and it means the house of God. Which was quite a heavy name to bear all my life. We could talk about that in another video. But yeah, so, and I got mad. I was like, oh, you want to throw scriptures at me?
You priest.
I was like, you want to throw scriptures at me? Okay, judge not lest ye be judged, and take the boulder out of your own eye before you take the whatever out of mine, blah, blah, blah. You know the scriptures. And yeah, and then we kind of cut friendship. I was like, nah, mate. I was there for you when you were in uni and you were doing your thing. And now I'm doing my thing and you're just not there for me. Because
Well, I think there's an important lesson there. I think obviously from her point of view, it's well, actually, when I needed you the most, you weren't readily available to help me. But I think for me, it was, and I'd hope, a lot of people are like this in life, generally speaking, where they're still able to say the truth. Because there are moments where you need people just to level with you and tell you exactly how things are, even if you don't like it. Because, upon reflection, yes, the way in which I said it might not have been the best way, but what I said was probably the right thing to say at the time, right?
Well, I guess it was just part of our story.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that we did end up back together, which is amazing.
Stalker!
I did not.
Can't let go of the stalking traits. You can can tell I'm enjoying this more than she's.
This is what I have to live with.
But anyway, yeah, carry on.
Okay, so after that, we cut all ties, and like he was kind of like doing his religious thing.
I think religious thing.
You got saved.
At the time, what happened is, I didn't mean to, but when I moved to London, I had my plans and there were things that I wanted to do, but God changed all of that for me. And so I found myself actually more serious about my faith, and at the time I was full of the Holy Spirit, and that changed everything about, what I planned to do and where I was going. And so I remember contacting Bethel and just saying, look, my life has changed, and even in terms of our relationship and the way we've been in the past, it's not really going to be the same.
Yeah.
And it meant at the time that I'd actually just kind of moved on.
When he prayed that prayer, it was also a Sunday, and I had just got back from France. I was living my best life. I went to the Moulin Rouge. It was amazing. I was not thinking about becoming a Christian. I was not thinking about getting married. I was 20. I was in the highlight of my career because I have a master's in drama, and I was acting and directing at that time. Sorry, big head. No. I was just living my best life, and
the halo.
I just wasn't thinking about him. I had also got into another relationship. This is the person that I got into a relationship with who had a similar name to him. And I was in that relationship for nearly 2 years, and I liked that person a lot. I introduced him to my family. I thought that person was the person that I was going to marry because I had never introduced any boyfriends to my family.
So I was going to say, can you imagine what it was like for your family, because you kept introducing all of these Marcus people.
They weren't all Mark.
And imagine,
just had
hi
similar
Dad,
traits.
got a new boyfriend. What's his name? Mark.
Mark. I only introduced one person to my family.
Okay.
I only
somebody else comes
one
around
person to my family.
Oh, right, okay.
Anywho, so this was the person that I thought I was really serious about, because for me to have a conversation with my dad about somebody that I think I'm going to marry, okay, that's another topic for another day, but yeah, that was serious, and I thought, this is the person I'm going to marry, right?
Imagine your dad walking up to that person and saying, hi Mark, just thinking that was probably going to be his name. He's like, no, actually, I'm George.
Stop. So then, right, one of my uncles passed away around that time, and I went back to Zimbabwe for the first time in 8-9 years. And that was like a reality check for me, because life was very cushy in UK, and then I go back to Zimbabwe and I see everything that's happening there, I see how people are suffering, and it kind of just made me think.
I mean, that's a really interesting topic for another video. Because Bethel has a way of actually telling her past or her childhood stories in a very morbid way. And you're like, actually, life wasn't that miserable, Bethel.
No, I'm saying in Zimbabwe at the time, there was like a cholera
Like the way
outbreak.
she said about the whole thing with the UK and the US, because there was no geography back in the day.
So when I was in Zimbabwe, it kind of just made me focus a little bit, because I'd been living my best life and not seeing that actually there was, people were suffering and life wasn't that great for everybody. So it kind of made me have a bit of a reality check, and I got a bit serious at that time, and I went.
Did you never watch the news and stuff about people suffering
really, to
in
be honest, not
all the
really,
different countries and stuff?
No. I was just living it up at uni, just enjoying myself.
So you can imagine the shock when she goes to these places. She's like, "Oh my goodness, people living in huts."
I remember opening the tap, honestly, I remember opening the tap and screaming because there was no running water. Imagine, when you just go to the tap and you open the water because you want to brush your teeth in the morning. It's like, ah! My grandmother just laughed from the kitchen, and she was like, "You privileged children." But yeah.
Third world countries most cases.
Yeah. So, and I remember praying this prayer at that time. So that was about December, January of 2008, going into 2009. And I was like, Lord, I'm with this person, and I think this is the one. I think, in my head, this is going to work out. I had plans to move abroad to Canada and be with this person, and that was my plan. That was happening. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to ask you, for a fleece, a test. If this is the person that I'm supposed to marry, things will just run smoothly, and we'll just continue as we are. We've never argued. It's an amazing relationship. It's going to be all good. If not, we're just going to start arguing, and we're just going to not see eye to eye, and that's going to be my sign that this is not the person. I kid you not, the day I got back to the UK, we had our first argument, and we started arguing on so many different levels about so many different things. It was crazy.
I think it was the running water that did it.
Or the lack thereof. But yeah, and I remember we were like talking about, oh, so you know, when you get married, when we have kids, what is it going to be like, what school they're going to go to, what faith are they going to be, and all this kind of stuff. And what I realized is that although he said he was a Christian, but really he wasn't really rooted in Christ, and we did have different core beliefs, and it was just becoming more and more clear that actually this isn't actually the guy. Fast forward like a couple of months.
I think, again, that's interesting because there's a book about that, which is...
What?
The 10 things I wish...
The 10 things I wish I'd known before I got married. Which we will talk about in another video. But yeah, so I was like, this isn't the guy, and I'm cutting loads out because I'll tell it more in my salvation story. His dad came to my house randomly. This is April 2009.
And believe it or not, I wasn't actually on
it was so random. Mark wasn't there. His dad came to my house, and his dad was like, oh, how's Mark? And I was like, that's interesting. Why are you asking me how Mark is? He's your son.
He's your son.
Shouldn't you know? And he was like, no, you guys used to be best friends. You used to talk all the time. Don't you think you guys should talk? And I was like, no. Like, Mark is on his holy trip right now, and I am worlds away from that. So he's not going to want to know me. He doesn't want to know anything about me. So no, I don't need to talk to Mark. And he was like, no, don't be silly. He has his number. So his dad totally hooked me up with his number.
My dad's like smooth.
To be honest, if it wasn't for your dad, I don't think we would be together. We would not be together. Like, seriously. So he gave me his number.
Maybe he felt sorry for me. He's like, this guy probably needs some help. So here you go.
Probably.
Give him a nudge.
Probably he did. And yeah, he was like, no, just call him. So I was like, I just took it to be polite. I had no intention of calling him. But then, like, when I was going back to uni, because I was at home at mum's house, and then when I was going back to uni, because the term was starting again, I went on this bus that took forever. Normally it takes like 2 hours to get there, but it took like 4 hours that day. I don't know why it took 4 hours that day, but now I know why.
It's probably the mega bus.
Just reflection. It was time for reflection, and someone just started thinking about Mark and the number that I now had.
It was a stalker gene.
It was not the stalker gene. I guess I just missed you, and I didn't talk to you for ages. It was like nearly 2 years. So I was like, oh, you know what? It wouldn't hurt to just call to find out how he's doing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to call him. So I called him, and I was like, hey, Mark, how are you doing? And I told him about my life.
And by the way, guys, at this point, I've been practicing my game. So, yeah, I was just on fire.
Okay. So he was 20. I was 20. He was 25 at this time.
Yeah.
And I called him, and I was like, oh my gosh, my career is going so well. I'm acting in this, I'm directing in that, and I'm doing this and this and this. And I've met this person who I think I'm going to get married to. Yes, I did tell him about him. I told him everything. He knows everything about my life.
And I think it was interesting listening to Bethel's story at the time, because as she spoke, the only thing I could hear, because I was on this kind of, as she said, holy trip, for me, it sounded like it was just a soul crying out, help. And that's all I heard, help.
Yeah. It was just a cover
And so here she is, she was just masking the pain and, you know, whatever it was that she was going through.
Yeah.
And she was masking with, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm going
my
here,
life is
and
so
my
nice.
life is amazing. And bearing in mind, you got to remember, I've known Bethel since we were like kids. So she could say anything with her mouth, but I know exactly what her heart is saying. And so as she was speaking to me then, after she said all that, I just went, so when are you coming to church? It was a curveball.
I know.
Just came out
I was
nowhere.
like, what?
Oh, actually, I said, no, it's great that you're doing all of that.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
amazing.
Wow. So when are you coming to church? And she was like, oh, church?
Church? I was like,
Did you hear what I just said? I said, I'm
like,
going to America, doing all this stuff.
I was like, I'm a very busy woman.
Oh, yeah, so I'm a very busy woman.
I can't make it to church, to be honest. As I said, I had no intention of becoming a Christian at all, and that just wasn't, like, no, that just wasn't happening for me. But then he was like, listen, just make an effort, and God will do the rest. And I was like, okay. That was like such a profound statement. It was so small, but it was so profound. And then after I put the phone down.
And I think it was interesting because it's not because I was pushy or anything. I mean, I was just speak to her quite casually.
It was very casual. Like, it was just like a one-liner, dropped it in there, the last.
I mean, she spoke most of the time, as she's doing now.
He can talk.
We both
You'll
chat.
see.
But as
I
you
am
can
not the
see,
only talker in this.
we have to let Bethel talk.
It's just because it's my stalker story.
Yeah,
I mean, it's my story.
Stalker story, yeah, you said it right.
Yeah. So, basically, yeah, from there, like, I just started thinking, make an effort. And then, like, so many things were going on in my life, as Mark was saying, like that I was masking and covering up, and like, so many sins that I'll talk about in the video of my salvation. Just that my life wasn't great, and I wasn't in love with this person that I thought I was in love with, and I wasn't happy, and I wasn't going to be happy with that person.
It was like in the movies, you know, in the cartoons when, like, you know, you got this adult who's living this miserable life, and then they eat something, like in what's that cartoon, the cooking one, the French, the Ratatouille, right? When the critic comes over to the restaurant and he eats that meal, whatever it was called, and it took him back to his childhood. And so for Beth, it was like recalibrating. And, you know, the moment I spoke to her, she came back to herself, and it was like, actually, what am I doing?
It kind of was like
this
that.
Is not who I am.
It kind of was like that. It was like, actually, there's so much more. There's a lot. There's a lot more. There's a lot more. Like, I am living a very fake life right now, and I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want this.
And I think that's a really interesting thing, because again, I was living on the edge of like transparency and truth. You know, Beth was on this kind of like, oh, I'm successful, you know, I'm going to be famous, and I don't know you anymore, you know, kind of thing.
Pretty much, like, that is what I wanted to do. And
I was going to say, because that's what the change did for me. It just brought me to a place where I was just honest and I was simple enough to just be honest and transparent, and just to say, look, I get it, you're doing great, but you're missing out on this one really important part.
Really crucial part of your life. But yeah, so after that conversation, as I said, my like the thoughts were just, I think like conviction just hit me for the first time in forever in my life. It was like, Bethel, you gotta turn this around. Like, this isn't life.
Bearing in mind, I was a praying man.
No.
No, but true. You know, as Christians, we do pray, and so.
But that was like the Wednesday, because remember you prayed that prayer about that girl.
Yeah, and that's
on the Sunday.
So I
and this was the Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. So I prayed. You know, we were living in two separate places. I was in London, she was in Canterbury.
Yeah.
2 different lives, and so you know, I make the prayer on a Sunday, and then she calls me
on the Wednesday. That was amazing. Like, honestly, you couldn't have.
So God just, you know, turned my heart from the girl that I thought I was going to get married to. And Bethel rings me.
And refocused you.
And helped me to refocus.
To the girl that you're supposed to get married to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we both were in different relationships. Like, we both were going to be married to the wrong person. But we just thank God that we are not. And we were going to be married to the wrong person.
Bless them. The people were amazing people.
They are great.
Nothing wrong with them.
But they just weren't our person.
No, you make me sound like
no, they just weren't our person. Like, we were each other's person.
Not true.
So yeah, and that was it. And like, and then I did like a ton of like reflection and then confessions. Again, I'll talk about that in a different video, but a ton of things had to happen in like a really short space of time. So this was Wednesday after talking to Mark, and all of a sudden, like, I'm like, I need to tell so-and-so I did this to them, and so-and-so I did that to them. And even the person that I was with, I was like, oh my gosh, I've done this to you, and I'm really, really sorry. And this heart of repentance just came from nowhere, and I didn't know what was going on. But then like Friday, my dad calls me, or Thursday, my dad calls me, and it's like, oh, do you want to go to church on Sunday? And I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together. Like, this is the same church that Mark is talking about. Because at this time, at this time they were going to a different church in London, and we were still going to the one in Bedford. And so I was like, oh, I don't know. He's like, no, just come. You know, we've never been there before. We'll just go visit. We'll go visit this church and see what it's like. And I was like, oh, yeah. He was like, well, you're going to get a lift. Somebody will come and pick you up from work from Canterbury, so you don't have to get a bus. You don't have to do anything. And I was like, you know, if it's going to be that easy, just
why not?
Make an effort. So I did. And that was just an amazing experience. Just going to the people who picked me up, their house was amazing. I just experienced so much love and so much forgiveness and so much. They didn't know me very well. I mean, we were childhood friends, but they didn't know me for who I was at that time. Yeah. But they accepted me and they loved me regardless. And that was amazing. And then I just remember on Sunday going into church and then opening the door to the Sunday school room, right? And lo and behold, who's like sat directly opposite with a face like that, literally. It is exactly what he did. He's like...
I think in that moment, in that moment, I was so proud of Bethel because I could see she, as I said to her, just make an effort. And that's what she did. She made an effort, and then God did the rest. And so seeing her walk to the door was like, you actually did it. I knew I could count on you to sort of come through. And I think, again, especially for us, when those moments happen, it's like it takes you back to maybe even when you're like, when I was like 15, and I remember Bethel walking up to me, and it's like, oh my goodness, are we still friends?
Yeah.
10 years later, whatever it was.
But it's like we didn't skip a beat. Like
No.
literally.
No.
That was it, you know, and we were back on chatting and and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, but we're gonna kind of end there for today because there's so much more in our journey where we then like, and part of it is my salvation journey.
Absolutely.
And then
because that was more important than anything else.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest things that he said to me when I came
me.
back. He was just like, you know what, Bethel, I think you need to focus on your salvation because God will love you more than I ever can. So, you know, let's just be chill and be friends, but you focus on you and you focus on getting to know God and stuff. And that was like the best gift that he ever gave me, really, to be honest, was like actually stepping back and allowing me to get saved and that kind of stuff.
But I think we'll probably talk about that in the next video.
In our salvation videos, we'll talk about that. But thank you so much for listening, and that's where we're gonna leave it, guys. We will do more videos about like from there, our courtship and all that kind of stuff. So subscribe to our channel, hit the notification button if you want to see more content, like, share, comment. If there's any questions you want to ask, if there's any topics that we touched on that you want to know more about, please let us know.